everybody. Matt St. John with Street John Realty here. Going to talk about some military-specific price of waiting today. With me, I have Dominique Parks.
Hey, everybody.
Also, military veteran. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Dominique Park with Park Realty Alaska and Keller Williams Realty Alaska Group. I am a military veteran. I served from 2010 to 2019 in the Alaska Air National Guard, and I've been doing real estate for over 10 years now.
Nice. So we're going to put, I guess, some disclaimers out there. All of these are projections based off of our previous experience helping our clients in the past get massive amounts of equity and financial independence by investing in real estate in a deliberate way when they PCS. We're going to use 400K. We're going to be talking about Staff Sergeant, BAH, COLA, BAS, all of those entitlements. And we're going to be talking about an overseas tour here in Alaska, which is 3 to 4 years, depending on the tour that you get. Make sense?
Absolutely. And when he says 400K, we're talking 400K purchase price of a home.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So what's the first thing that strikes you when you're talking to a buyer coming up to Alaska and they're saying, hey, I want to buy a house, but I don't know if it's going to be beneficial for me when I leave?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times with staff sergeants, it could definitely be the first time that they're buying a home. Maybe not. I mean, everybody's a little different, but whether it's your first time buying a home or second or third, Alaska is a whole different environment, and the economy and the market is completely different. So I think it's just a little bit of lack of education of our market, and that's where we come into play, and we can show them the benefits of homeownership, because there are a lot of benefits, and we want to make sure that our veterans capitalize on that.
Right. So what would you say is the biggest benefit of buying a house in Alaska right when you get to base?
Appreciation.
Appreciation. Okay. What kind of appreciation are they looking at over, say, a 4-year period?
Absolutely. So, the market goes up and down, so we can't predict. We don't have a crystal ball. We can't predict exactly what it's going to look like 4 years for, our viewers right now that are watching. Right. But if we said, an average of 5% a year, I would say that's pretty dang good appreciation.
Yeah.
And it's a long game, right? So The longer they're in it, people PCS all the time, but that doesn't mean that they have to sell right away. So appreciation works in great ways.
So 400,000, 5% appreciation year over year comes out to $86,000 in appreciation, plus or minus a couple $100.
Yeah.
So if you're selling that house at the end, like net out, you'd probably walk away with about $50,000 in cash in your pocket after all your closing costs and commissions and everything else.
Absolutely. So if you PCS to Alaska and you can afford the house and you're looking at netting at least $50,000 when you leave versus having rented or stayed on base, then I think that you're definitely going to be making out and much happier to be leaving with $50,000 versus nothing. Yeah.
And a point you brought up earlier before we started recording, what else could you do with that $80K?
Yeah. So
when you leave?
As long as it's your primary residence, you can do a home equity line of credit, and if you have to qualify for it, of course. But if you qualify, the interest rates can be much lower sometimes than the regular interest rates to purchase. It gives you access to liquid cash. It's like a line of credit. You can take money out of it. You can put it back. It's kind of like having a credit card, but they only charge you if, of course, you take the money out.
Right.
There's also cash out refinance options. So if you want to refinance because interest rates have gone down, you can take some of that equity out and use it to reinvest or, do whatever you want with. But I always encourage reinvesting, whether it's into a new house where your new duty station is going to be. If you decide that you want to reinvest it into a multifamily because you want to be a landlord, or if you want to just take a big fancy vacation. I mean, it's really up to you. It's your money. But having the ability to have the liquid cash available to you is huge.
And then rent the home.
You can also rent it out. Mm-hmm.
Right. When you leave.
Yep.
And you're taking that HELOC out, right?
Absolutely.
And set the rent up in a way that the renter pays for the HELOC.
Yep.
And the property.
And your mortgage. And of course you want to calculate your maintenance and things like that. So ultimately, at the end of the day, after all expenses are paid, you should be cash flowing.
Right. And who do they talk to get those kind of numbers?
You or me.
Yeah.
A good realtor and a good lender.
How we linked that together. See how we came and brought it back around. All right. So Staff Sergeant BAH in our area right now is with dependents, $24.48, right?
Mm-hmm.
COLA a little over $800, BAS around $500. So that comes out to 37 and change
Hmm.
a month that you have available to you that the Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, whoever it is, gives you to live somewhere, right? Especially up here, where in Alaska, where stuff's a little more expensive. So on that $400,000 house, the mortgage is going to be about $2,900.
Hmm.
That includes insurance, taxes, interest, and the principal, right? So that's 800. We'll call it dollar difference between those two. Utilities on those kind of houses. Most of the houses out here in that $400,000 range are 5-star energy rated. Electricity is going to be under $200 a month. Gas in the winter is going to be about $200 a month. In the summer, it's going to be 50. Food up here for a family of 2 or 3 kids. I mean, what are you
It
spending
depends on
on
where
that?
you're shopping.
Right.
Are you shopping at the commissary or are you
Yeah.
shopping at Fred Meyer?
Right.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, I would say at least easy $1,000 a month for a family of 4.
Gotcha. Pretty expensive.
Yeah.
For food. Gotcha. So, but that just to put it into context for you guys, the money is there, especially when you're not going to have to come out of any money down. So, for instance, closing costs, $5,000-$6,000 depending on your lender. Of course, shop around on the lenders, but $5,000 or $6,000 in closing costs. But I mean, out of how many buyers have you been able to get the closing costs wrapped into the deal for your VA recently?
Recently, I would say more so than not, just because where we used to be in a seller's market, it's definitely shifted to where buyers can actually ask for some more seller concessions. So, I mean, there was a time where we'd wrap everything up into the loans, and you'd actually get your earnest money back at the end of the deal. So
Right.
you'd actually get paid at closing versus bringing money to the table. So it really depends on the property, if there's multiple offers or if it's been on the market for a while. But there's definitely some opportunity to ask the seller for those concessions where they can pay for those for you.
And that can be part of the selection process for finding that right home is finding a home where you can leverage your closing costs into the deal, right?
Absolutely.
Maybe they undervalued the property a little bit and you think it will appraise for higher. So you would make a little bit over asking offer, right? To get some of those concessions financed in, or maybe the house is overpriced. So you give them what they want and finance those in, on the backside. So lots of opportunity there. We didn't even go into like the difference between like renting and how much you're gonna lose, compared. That was just straight appreciation numbers.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, so if you're talking about renting, you're paying your landlord's mortgage, you're paying 100% interest.
Mhm.
You have nothing to gain from it other than you have a roof over your head and you're staying warm, you're sheltered.
Yeah.
But as far as you're paying your landlords, they're getting all the equity, they're getting all the appreciation,
Tax benefits.
all the things. So another thing that I always recommend is if this is your first time buying a home, I always think it's important to get a good reputable accountant because you don't want to miss those tax write-offs.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And just for peace of mind, if you were going to rent the same house, could you rent it for under $3,000 a month? Probably not. I would be willing to bet you could not get this same house for that. So your quality of life is going to be higher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your return financially is going to be greater.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing the downside.
Nope.
What are the downsides?
Not at all. I mean, if you're a homeowner, so
Right.
you do have to make sure that you maintain the home. Whereas if
Okay.
you're a renter, you can call your landlord and say, my refrigerator's leaking, or
Right.
my roof is leaking. But as a homeowner, you're going to have to take care of those things on your own. But of course, there's other things that come into play, like home warranties and insurance and things like that. But at the end of the day, you are the one responsible for maintaining the home. So,
Right. But we can also mitigate those things as well with some home warranties.
Absolutely.
And other options that, they're not going to be maybe as beneficial sometimes as having somebody else pay the whole bill.
And
right?
Say you did have to replace a $3,000 fridge.
Mhm.
If you're making $80,000 in equity, are you going to be upset about replacing a $3,000 fridge?
I'm not.
I'm not either.
And also another benefit to me is I'm not a big fan of waiting on other people to help me, right? When it comes to like a landlord or the housing office on base where you make a phone call and you have to deal with whatever's broken or malfunctioning for 3 or 4 weeks until they can get you on the schedule.
And you don't have to ask for permission to put flowers in your flower bed. Unless you have an HOA.
Wash your
and then
car
make sure you read
in your driveway.
HOA rules. Yep, all the things.
In Alaska, the HOAs out here are pretty chill
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, if they even exist.
Absolutely.
Most of the time they don't. So, but yeah, no, Thank you so much, Dominique. That's some very helpful stuff. Again, it's 400,000 or less. We've gotten people in, well under 400,000. We just use that as a round number. So if that number sounds scary, again, there's a house for everybody, right? There's a way to make some money for you. Look at it as a financial investment instead of maybe the perfect house, right? Because you're only going to be here 3, 4, 5 years. So we're going to use that as a tool so that when you retire, if you do this 3 or 4 times over your career, you'll have 200, 300K in equity saved up across a number of properties, or that you flipped from house to house to house. But regardless, you're going to have hundreds of thousands of dollars in net worth available to you to maybe build that perfect home when you retire, or take those trips, or whatever the situation is. It just gives you so much flexibility.
It really does. I mean, I bought my first property in 2013 as a senior airman.
Mm-hmm.
It was the most terrifying thing I ever did, and I wish I would have bought 10 properties in 2013 because I would be a very happy woman. Yeah. I still am a very happy woman, but
right.
I mean, just again, going back to the appreciation, and we gave staff sergeant as the example, but you can do it as a senior airman. Don't. If you have questions, just ask. Don't let one person tell you can't do it, because there's always, typically a workaround. Yeah. So,
what's the youngest military person you've sold a house to?
Oh, I think it might be myself. Well, I wasn't my own realtor then, so that's not true. Okay. I don't know.
22 is mine.
I'm gonna say mine's probably like 28.
28? Okay.
Yeah.
I sold an A1C, a condo in Anchorage last year.
Yeah. No, I sold an 18-year-old a house, but his dad helped him.
Okay.
But he was military.
Close.
Yeah.
Close.
Yeah.
So 19.
Okay. Yeah, 19.
Right? So 19 years old.
Yep.
What's your excuse? Right?
Yeah.
What's your excuse? Right? You know how far ahead he's going to be by the time he's 30?
Absolutely. Yeah.
How far ahead is
and
that?
He bought, and this 19-year-old that I helped, he bought a condo, but it's still an investment. I mean, it's still so much better than, it might not be a single family residential house. It might not be big and fancy, but it works, and it's so much better than
renting. What do you want to bet he's renting a room to his buddy that pays for over half the mortgage?
Probably. If his wife will let him.
Yeah. Dude, I would at that point. Dude, absolutely.
Yeah. No, we did it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what would you like to end on?
I just want to say thank you so much for having me. And yeah, absolutely. I think my biggest thing is if you're young, or you feel like, you've never done this before, if it feels scary, just, connect with somebody, not just one person, but don't let people tell you no. Just keep pushing and ask the right questions, and ask as many people as you can until you get a yes, because it is 100% obtainable.
Yeah, there's always a way, regardless of the rates. And we didn't even talk about rates.
We didn't.
But I mean, I feel like everybody's
next episode
in on the rates way too much. Let's just real quick, 10 seconds on the rates is, the rates are not going to cost you $80,000 a year of your equity. Can I just say that? Can we just put that out there?
Can I add my 2 cents?
Yeah, go.
Okay, so you married the house, not the rate. You can always refinance down the road. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to rent, that's 100% interest rate. If you're going to buy, it's right now 6-7%.
Yeah, exactly.
So still a lot cheaper than renting.
Yeah, for sure. And
you can always refinance in the future.
Yeah, and Alaska is one of the few places in the country where the appreciation is close to the rates, right? And then sometimes the appreciation on the property actually exceeds the interest rates on the loan. That's one of the only places in the country that can say that, which is ridiculous, right? More on that later, but thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Like, subscribe, follow, comment, all of those things. We appreciate you guys very much, and more to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you.